Hi there, my name's Andy from Gobbo's Grotto, and welcome to another part of my build for my Blood Bowl Skaven team. I'm building a pitch for them, hopefully turning it into a stadium. Last time you saw it, it was just pre-resin pour for the suicide. That sounds awful. Sewer sides. Now I've poured the resin. Now I didn't show you the resin pour because I have to do it quite quickly due to the nature of the epoxy resin. It's a two-part resin, and when it pours together you have a couple of minutes to deal with it, so I didn't really have a lot of time to mess around with cameras and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I was using a new resin, one that I'd not used before, so wasn't quite prepared for how it cured and in the way it cured. So normally the one that I use has a slight greenish yellow tint to it. This one came out very green, so you can see here it's certainly stained everything green. It hasn't washed out the flock, it's just the way that the epoxy is tinted, which in itself wouldn't be too bad, but this one has done quite a few bubbles as well. And really hasn't come out quite like I would want it. Full disclosure, it's not come out like I wanted it. So, but it costs quite a bit of money, which is the sad thing as well. So this build, which was for essentially free because I had all the components, has turned into a little bit more of an expensive project because of the resin, and it hasn't come out how I liked. So that's a shame. However, because it's a sewer, I have tried to rescue it with poo, basically. So I've added a poo mix. It is sand mixed with brown emulsion paint and some PVA glue and a bit of water. And it's covered kind of the worst of the bubbling. So you've got lots of these little bubbles everywhere. I didn't mind that too much because that could just be noxious gases erupting. But it became very, 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 very bubbly, and some of them were huge bubbles, which just looked really disproportionate. So I've covered those with poo, and actually, it's not turned out too bad because of that. I didn't mind too much bubbling around here where the tentacles come out because that looks like the water's splashing, and in fact, I've added a little bit of subtle paints as well, just to kind of bring out the thrashing of that, and also the resin has turned the das, which is quite soft and brittle, very hard, and that was the intention as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how I did the poo, essentially, and who knew you were going to see that on a YouTube video. So here we go. I'm just going to put the camera down so I can do it. The shine of the resin will come off because I will be putting a matting varnish over the top to give it a bit of protection as well. So yeah, all I did is I've got a kind of textured paint really. It's my own mix, like I say, sand and emulsion and PVA glue. So I'm just going to add it, and I've tried to make it so that the sewer is flowing, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm just making sure I get plenty of the sand to represent the consistency of the feces, I guess. And then just drawing it down so that it looks like it's flowing from one end to the other. So making one end a little bigger and then drawing it down almost like a little tail, and then you can all just drag off extra bits there as well. I had to make the paint quite thick, quite dense, if you like, because it's emulsion. It's not got a high pigmentation. So there's quite a lot of paint in here because otherwise it will just dry off and become quite watery and you won't see it. And also what I'm trying to do is go along the lines so that the squares are still quite prominent. I don't want to lose the squaring of the game, of the board, so people can still use the squares. And that's something actually that I'm going to ask you guys, if you are still watching, to comment on whether I need to highlight the squares, because so far I've tried to get it as in the squares as integrated into the board so that almost not artificial, you know, like on the pitch you get little crosses, which definitely look artificial. I've seen it in other boards as well, where pins are used, which is fine, and that's no disrespect to the guys who do that, but I wanted to try and find a way of doing it a little bit more naturally, which is why I chose a stone effect, like a tile effect, but this resin has kind of blown that out of the water a little bit. So in the comments on either YouTube or where I post this on Facebook, if you don't mind, sorry, I'm just trying to get that in there, just letting me know whether you think I should do something about the squares and whether they're visible enough. Certainly as players, I'm sort of reaching out to the Blood Bowl community, whether that would be good enough for you. And I'll show you again once I've done these little bits, when I pick up the camera again and show you what I mean by that. This side wasn't too bad. This was the side I initially did, which gave me a little bit of hope. And then I did the second side, and the resin went a little crazy, and ended up, like I say, it's the first time I used this resin. It's my own fault, really. I should have used the resin that I'm used to, but I guess it was too good to be true. This was Poundland resin, which I've used before, but they've just changed the manufacturer, or where they buy it from, or whatever. And yeah, I guess you get what you pay for, don't you, really? So, yep. So essentially, will Pooh save this build? I hope so. Because now I've invested a little bit of money in it because of the resin. Whereas before it was just my time. Now it's resin. It's money, sorry. But hopefully it's not too bad. I don't think it looks too bad on the other side. Like I say, I'll be matting it all down anyway. I'm just going to draw a little Sigma's Comet 2 there. There we go. So that kind of covers the worst of the bubbles. Again, let me show you this side. It's kind of slurred in there. It is very bright with the resin, but that will damp down. Hopefully you can still see the division of the squares. So it's a little busy. So the question really is, do I add something like a yellow or a white cross in there to kind of divide the squares up a little bit? Okay, and I'll leave that there. And the next one will just be when I've finished the whole board, really. I'm still going to crack on with it, even though it didn't come out quite how I wanted it to. Just to give the whole stadium or the whole pitch feel, and then we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy from Montgomery's Grotto.